yourselves.
Your responses and speeches show a political side. The way you respond shows your the side you want. I will not mention, you know yourself.
10 years down the road, and now as we are talking, there is no direction.
Yet when your husband goes outside there, he meets young ladies who have a heavy.
Does that really or actually mean that calling for generational exit?
Yeah, the songs there. Why don't you please by the way?
If they cannot trust you with the leadership, how do you expect them to trust you with funds?
When it's their bosses, they get into courtship instead of them pulling their own youth, instead they're pulling the old ones. So are you there empowering the youths or the old ones?
Do you think we need a political dialogue with the we liberated this country generation?
The president should do this, should do that, should do that. No, we should empower this institution.
Because the moment I find that this lady or this man is important, we cannot consider the marriage.
Say in your bedroom, you dress up as if you went to the market, something very
How have you coped with this issue of corruption in your office particularly? That's one. Can I ask another one?
No, please.
But I'm talking of a young man who completely depends on the woman.
Is it happening? Is it happening?
Begin to acquire, you can even say you can, you can.
Going to your question, first of all, I'm one of the people who are always optimistic about what we have reached so far, because actually we came a long way, and if you can go back to our story, South Sudanese were known as a fighters. We fought for more than 21 years, and finally we managed to have a country. So to me, being an independent country itself is a great achievement. And our fathers and mothers who fought for us to have a country called South Sudan. And of course, challenges remain, but if we can talk of the past 10 years, one of the great achievements we can actually reflect on is the struggle itself. To me, it's one of the most achievements that we have done so far in South Sudanese. Second thing is the independence. You know, it wasn't easy for us to have an independence. If it wasn't for our great leaders who fought for us to make sure that we are going to have an independence. And there was a lot of fight. And if you could remember, the NCP by then were trying to put a lot of obstacles for us not to conduct the referendum. And they have actually put also a lot of resources, which at some point they were trying to bribe our leaders. And number two, there was also some issues. The NCP were trying to take us back to the war, and then from that referendum will be cancelled. But the president stood very firm and managed to convince the leaders of the SPLM and to actually focus on delivering the independence for the people of South Sudan. So having an independent as an independent country in itself is a very great achievement for South Sudanese. And for us as the young generation, still we have a lot to do. And this is what I used to tell the young people most of the time, is that our fathers so far have achieved, starting from the liberation struggle to the independence, but the nation building is our task as a young generation. So far, we still have a big chances for us to contribute positively. And what we need to do is only to equip ourselves with the necessary skills, leadership style, and we have to learn from the mistake that done by our elders. There are certain stages that we want to go through. This issue of tribalism, issue of corruption, issue of what are all understandable because we are new to the public offices. So we are still have ahead way to go, but still what we have achieved is actually giving us hope that what we have achieved so far, it gives us hope of what we can do in the next coming 10 years.
All right, thank you very much. I think the most
beautiful thing he said is, despite all the setbacks, all the weaknesses that we have experienced, we have a country. We have a country called our own. So independence was one of the biggest achievements that we have got as South Sudanese. I want our honorable to get the mic. And do you have something to say different from what Mr. Chairperson has just said?
Yes, indeed. The struggle for the independence of South Sudan was a history of well. You can write, you can read it, and we can talk about it. When we start from Anyanya 1 and Anyanya 2, SPLM, 55 years struggle with the different ideologies. The ideologies of Anyanya 1 and Anyanya 2 differs from the ideologies of SPLM. And until SPLM was the force behind the independence of South Sudan. And more importantly, the power was the people, because the struggle was the people versus struggle. Yes, it has lasted for 55 years. For us to know there is a country called the Republic of South Sudan. And indeed, since we got our independence in 2011, 9 of July, it was a dream come true of the elders. It was a joy of youth and women. It was a promised land to the children. It was the land of milk and honey. Then the issues that emerged immediately after the independence of South Sudan clearly shows that people were not on the center of the decision making. I can give you one example when people were in the center of the decision making during the referendum. We all advocate for the independence of South Sudan using the different dimensions. The artists were singing songs for the independence. The comedians were doing their best, let me say, all the entertainment industries, the civil society, all the activists. That was people on the center of the decision of the country. When we want to vote for the independence of South Sudan, we got result 98.83%. People vote for independence of South Sudan. That was the people choice. It was not a political party choice. It was not it was the people choice that we want independence of South Sudan. I can remember some stories of people who committed suicide only just because they voted wrongly. Instead of voting for independence, voting for separation, they were misinformed and they voted for unity. They committed suicide just because of that vote. Unfortunately, what happened in 2013 in all this, but there is also some achievement. The struggle was the people's struggle, facilitated by the SPLM as a party, but the people's struggle is fighting for identity, because Sudan was being identified as an Arab country. And we say no, we are Africans. Sudan is a multicultural state. The Arabs say no, we are Arabs. So we are fighting for identity. We were fighting for freedom of religion. We were ruled by the Sharia law, and the freedom of religion was not guaranteed or protected by law in the then Sudan. We are fighting to have a multi-religious country. And all along, Southern Sudan then was underdeveloped and was used as a fierce land for the violence, for the destruction, and for all evil acts, both political, cultural, religious, including economic. We achieved the political independence, but we failed to achieve political stability. That's why you can see where we are now. People are very far from the decision and the center of the decision of the government, the decision of the country. People are aware. So today we are very proud that we have our own country represented. We are several states with our own flag, with our own identity as Africans, multi-religious, multicultural. And more importantly, we achieve initial development because in 2012, early 2012, the African Development Bank very fast in the Africa, and we all witnessed the level of the development we got from 2011 to 2012. Where we are sitting now was called Kuku Camp. This was this place camp where we are sitting now. This was called Kuku Camp. And all of them was this place camps, Kuku Camp, Paulino Camp, Nyampara Camp, and all of these areas in Jumping. But today, you can see Jumping is now no longer a displaced camp. So this is a little development that they can include, and other development that we can discuss on the process. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Very proud that we have a country. Everybody's proud. I remember we had a team that came from Uganda to come and vote. There was a bus that was hired from Kampala so that to bring students to come and vote for independence. I am sure some of you are here who traveled from Uganda to come and vote, and those who came from Kenya to come and vote. So we voted. Down the road, we know what happened in 2013, 2016. A lot happened. But now we want to put that to the past. We want to see a new South Sudan where everybody enjoys the freedom, the right, everybody is free to do what he wants to do. Now, Honorable Gola, recently we had the issue of unemployment. Youth around the country have been rising, attacking United Nations, NGOs facilities, and accusing other people that they are taking their jobs. This is because there's a very high rate of unemployment, and the youth think the only thing that they can land in is to work with the NGOs. So as a national youth leader of a national youth union, the youth of South Sudan, they listen to you, and they, I can say they're under your responsibility because you represent them. What have you done in these few years that you have been in office? I can say these few times you have been in office, what have you tried to do to make sure that the pride of the youth has been spoken and people, that's something you're doing?
There is nothing much that you can do apart from, number one, advocating for the right of the young people in the country. Number two is actually engaging with the leadership to make sure that the challenges facing the young people will be addressed. Number three is the youth empowerment. And all this cannot be done without proper guidance from the leadership or from the government. And it cannot be done without proper resources in our hands. And we are also facing with a lot of challenges. And what we are trying now in our term, you know, I have like 1 year and 6 months or 7 months in office now. And what we've been trying to put in place is the legal frameworks of the union itself. We are working on how the union should be an independent body and should be established through a parliamentarian act. We call it Youth Bill that has never been in place before. So this is one of the bills that we are now working on. Number two, we are working on Youth Enterprise Development Fund policy, which is in the peace agreement, and we have actually handed over the ministry, waiting to the pass in the Council of Ministers and then from there in the Parliament. This is one of the bills that is actually going to empower the young people through microfinancing and access to finance. We have also youth development policy. This youth development policy is one of the most important bills, and that bill is going actually to give or push the government to have obligation of supporting the young people. And based on that document, we propose that in every barrel we have to have at least $1 to support the young people. That bill, I'm sure if it's going to be passed, it's also going to help the young people. So what we are doing currently is the establishment of the National Youth Union to be an independent body, to be a body that will reflect the interests of the young people. But without these bills, we are just going to be there, not doing anything, and we have a lot of expectations from the young people. And this is one of the challenges that I'm going through myself, because the young people are expecting a lot from me, which sometimes I cannot deliver. And you know, when you are not a player in the field and you are outside, if someone makes a goal, you feel like, no, we're supposed to play like this. But when you are inside, you feel there's a lot of issues. So at the National Youth Union, we have a lot of issues, especially financial, because our financial system in all country, I don't think, I don't know where we came up with our financial policies, but what in this country, like the first budget that we have submitted to the ministry, it was budget of 2019 to 2020. And from that budget, we managed only to get less than 50% of that budget. And then from there, the budget was closed. We have drafted another budget from 2020 to 2021. And now, until the budget is closed, last week we didn't manage to get £1. And now we are going to another fiscal year budget from 2021 to 2022. So these are the challenges that we are facing. And I think this is something that needs to be addressed by the government. Because when we talk of the fiscal year budget, and in the last projection we had from the Revenue Authority that the proposed fiscal year budget of 2020 to 2021 was 400 billion South Sudanese pound. And the Revenue Authority managed to collect 500 something billion non-oil revenue. And still we have deficit. The institutions are not getting their budgets. The budget end up being only on papers. So these are the challenges that we need to address. And one of the most important provisions in our general resolution of South Sudan National Youth Union, and that is something that all of us should be aware of. One of the sources of income of South Sudan National Youth Union is through contribution of the youth of South Sudan. But if we ask ourselves, are we contributing? When we went to Cairo, we have attended one of the conferences, and there was one of the organizations. They managed to collect more than $15 million, and they are supporting the vulnerable people in all across Egypt. And they were willing to bring some food to South Sudan. You know, sometimes you may come across some food items being brought from Egypt. It is through this contribution of Egyptian people. But as the young people, we fail to contribute to our own institution. So this is one of the challenges. And still you go to social media and criticizing us and not delivering services, and we are not contributing anything. So how do you expect us to get finance?
For the past 1 month ago, there are 2 people that died in Lafon because of hunger. So I don't want to go back on that, but when I hear you say that, then one question you said, you're trying to make National Youth Union to be independent. That means you're not independent right now completely.
No, we are under Ministry of Youth and Sport.
Oh, so do we say that is a government entity?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
That's why we're trying our level best to make it independent.
All right, now, you see, sometimes when I posted this, I said I'm going to host Mr. Gola. Some guy came to my inbox and he was saying a lot of things. Then perhaps I invited him here to come and listen from you. Because sometimes we do criticize you a lot, we don't know what's happening in the background. So let's go to our young leader. Should I say operation leader or... how do I say it? Oh, yes, you have been in the government for some few months, sadly, some few months, and you were suspended. But I don't want to go into that. That's not why we are here. Why we are here is what we see. You are a young person. From this perspective, from where we are going right now, what do you think? Are we on the right track, or there's something that needs to be done?
100%, we love the road. By the way, we are just going, but we don't know where we are going. But I can see on the road what is happening. You know, immediately after getting independence, we're supposed to have a vision for the new country. A strategy, both political, cultural, economic, and social strategy for the new country. And up to today, which is 2021, a clear roadmap was not there. It's only the peace agreement. The revitalized peace agreement.
the only roadmap telling us what is supposed to happen. Okay? Unfortunately, the rich have become more richer and the poor has become more poorer. And some of other things, we brought them from the bush. Things that we brought from the bush, we don't differentiate between a political party and a soldier or a military. We politicize the army and militarize the politics. One person is a general and is a politician. What do you think will happen? A politics with a man is standing behind with the guns is not a good politics. And up to today, when you look at our court, people are still using Arabic. Yes. We have street people who are living in a grave level economy. They cannot even get 1,000 pounds to survive in a day. If anything happened to them, they wanted to open a court case, they will be asked for 1,000 pounds or 2,000 pounds. Sometimes very silly kind of questions. I need some money for pen. Am I imploring you to give you pen? That is the question. So, which means like the laws that we inherit from Sudan and the practice is still continuous. Look at our Penal Code Act, look at our Civil Procedure Act, look at some of the laws. Maulana is here and the other people are here. Okay? Those laws, one time freedom of expression is not there. Yes, those freedom, they gave you, like you said, there is freedom of expression, but there is no freedom of expression. Okay? So those laws are inherited from Sudan and it's still a Sharia law. Those are the laws of Sharia law. How do you think we can inherit laws of Sharia law if we want to have our own country? Those laws need to be amended so that they will conform with our transitional constitution of the Republic of South Sudan. More importantly, currently the nation is at the stage of permanent constitutional making process. There is a rule to put other things in constitution. You separate military from politics. One, you can get there. These freedoms will be guaranteed by laws. We need freedom before expression and freedom after expression. Those things of Sharia law will be abolished. And very many others, so that we will be in the right track. We will be right track. So currently, we are going.
But nowhere. All right, yes, I believe we are going. There must be a destination when you're going somewhere. There must be a goal, there must be a point where you have to go and stop. And it's sad sometimes when we speak like this, we might be forced to believe that we're not going anywhere. But you still have some glimpse of hope that at one point we might decide and start moving somewhere. And if you have been traveling to Torit, to Bor, to Tarakeka, you must have seen what's happening, right? You must have seen what's happening. The road construction has been happening. Tarakeka road was really, really fun when we were driving. We were driving from Juba to Mangala, and from Juba to Torit, things are okay. And somebody who was in the car were driving, somebody told me that I wish SPLM did this 10 years ago. By now, this village will be having tarmac. I wish that happened. But still, we have good things to say about this country. The government is trying. You cannot say they're not trying. The government is trying, and for the past few years, we have seen a lot of improvement. Right now, there used to be a non-gunman, and right now, I see people are enjoying. And you have power. You don't have to take your phone and charge somewhere. So let's talk about the positive side of this country. Let's have a very positive mindset that as young people, we are having this dialogue because we want to reach a point where we have to move away from negativity and start speaking something right about this country. Because every time when someone asks you, how is South Sudan, you say, hey man, this is hell, this country is hell. You speak to a fellow Junubi, you say, hey, how are you doing? Ah man, this country is bad. Okay? So I think right now we need to start focusing from negativity to go to positivity. So this is what we need to do. Right now, I'll give my guests, we are having, I'm going to give them some few minutes to speak. Then I'll be able to take your question.
People are the real for development and nation building. And coming to the achievement on how South Sudan will look 10 years from now, I'm seeing a light. And I'm so optimistic again about the president's speech when he was giving his speech. And I'm actually one of the people who are waiting day and night for that day to come. The inauguration of the newly instituted MPs. He was saying that he's going to tell us his policy direction. I think that one, from political analysis, perspective, it has a lot of meaning. And we could see it now, because actually, as an intellectual, we cannot say things are okay unless we are lying to ourselves, and then people have right to label us whatever they want to label. But we are optimistic that the government is trying their level best. I will just quote some speeches of the president here. During the first independent, and in this independent, and what happened now, I'm seeing that there is a lot of changes. In 2011, during the independent, the first presidential speech that His Excellency gives to the public or to the people of South Sudan, and I caught one of the points, important points. He said, those who are unwilling or unable to take the sacrifice required in the public service will not be part of this government. This is one part. Number two, these people also, they will be having options to choose whether they are going to satisfy personal aspiration or pursue government interest. And I'm sure in the coming speech of his political directives, I think he's going to do something about this. He also said that the transparency and accountability is going to be our role when addressing the people, thing to do with South Sudan. The official or corruption officials has been one of our major challenges during the interim period. He put it clearly that during the interim period, whereby we are still one with Sudan, the corruption was one of the challenges. And still, up to now, the corruption remains one of the biggest challenges that we have. That's why the president decided, instead of giving people money to go construct development or roads, he is now giving groups. And that's why you can see both Upper Nile Road. We will actually, the correct name is Upper Nile Road, because it's not going to any road, it's going up to Upper Nile. That's why you could see Bargazal Road. And that's why you could see Kapoita Kenya Road. And that's why you can see innovation of Juba Numuli Road. And also launching of Western Equatorial roads. All this is done through group roads after the president realized that most of the people who work with it, I cannot name them. So
the president said when we suddenly see money, their hands keep on shaking.
Exactly. So this one is a very big step that is done by His Excellency in order to stop corrupt individuals by getting public money. That's why he managed to give group oils to the companies to conduct development. And I'm sure in the coming speech, His Excellency is going to give a very clear directives, very clear policies that will account any individuals who is going to attempt to actually take individuals or the public finance. But the problem is also our financial system. Like now, where I'm working, most of the people don't know that I'm actually volunteering. I am not receiving salaries, whether from the Ministry of Youth and Sport or from the National Youth Union, but they expect me not to be a corrupt. And I have a family, I have to feed. A minister, a minister is getting 3,000 SSP as a minister, as a salary. And we expect that minister not to be corrupt. Let us be honest to ourselves. If you go to these NGOs, especially these UNDPs and other international staffs, even their families are getting money. That's why you will find they're actually doing their work properly. But you cannot give a staff 2,000 or 4,000 South Sudanese power and expect
that person to deliver service without corruption.
So you're telling us you have normalized corruption already?
No, actually, I want the government. My point is, let us actually try to come up with policies that will pay good salaries to our officials. See? So that when they are working for the country and they know that families are looking together. It's just an example. And this is one of the major challenges that our government should look into.
Let's go to our honorable here. Just tell us, what are your aspirations for South Sudan 5 to 10 years from now? What do you expect to see differently that we have not seen in the past 10 years?
Thank you very much. Yes, at the juncture where we are now, the roadmap is the revitalized peace agreement. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this revitalized peace agreement, there are aspects as if it is not completed but has any aspect of recovery, of country recovery from where it is now to a promising South Sudan. You can read from chapter 1 up to chapter 8 of the revitalized agreement. You will see that we are on the way of having one army. We are not going to have army for Iowa, army for South, and we are going to have one nation and army. We move on to the governance system. The governance system, it has aspects of too many things. One of it is having institutions that can deliver, of course. The institutions that can deliver to the country. But if you read more of the agreement, this is the roadmap for the better South Sudan. And most importantly, the aspect of fighting corruption, it is within the revitalized agreement. The agreement said if a government official is found condoning corruption or engaged in corruption, will be banned from holding a public office. Example, as a minister today, if I'm found guilty of condoning corruption or any other person in the government, supposed not to be in the government anymore, you will ask questions and say, I know. But the issue is the institutions that can protect the public money, the public fund. By the agreement, we're supposed to have constitutional court. We're supposed, in case of issues to do with the violation of the agreement, it is the constitutional court that can address issues to do with fighting corruption, anti-corruption court. Now we have South Sudan Anti-Corruption Commission, but they don't have powers of prosecution. They can investigate and recommend to the Ministry of Justice. So it is the Ministry of Justice who will decide on the fate whether to find this case in the court, in the High Court or Lord, depends. So the institution that will fight corruption need to be strengthened. So the agreement is the roadmap. But I believe 100% that if we implement the revitalized agreement on the resolution of conflict in the Republic of South Sudan, this is the roadmap for the development. This is the roadmap for economic recovery. This is the roadmap for the stable security. And this is the roadmap for the peaceful transition of power. This is the roadmap for having a democratic state whereby we will embrace each other from the different ethnicities, different political affiliations, different culture and different language.
You have all the attention. The purpose of this show is to allow us to have a discussion among ourselves as young people. We rarely get a chance like this where we come together and talk to ourselves. Now, we created this show so that we can talk to ourselves. Instead of criticizing the government negatively, we should provide solutions. A lot of us go to social media, abuse the government, abuse the highest office, but you don't provide solutions. So this is a space where we tell the government this is wrong and provide solution to it. Not just to say the government is wrong and you just keep quiet. That means you're part of, you want to bring the government down because you keep on criticizing. And by the way, by criticizing the government full time, you are tarnishing the image of your country. So that we don't get surprised you go to Uganda and they tell you, hey, they read what you write and they say, your country is a mess. So we know there's a lot of things that need to be fixed in this country. As young people should provide solutions. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take two questions. Two from here, two from the middle, and two from the back. And please, if I give you a chance, I'm just giving 30 seconds to ask a question. If you want to say something, not a question, just want to make a statement, please, just be so brief. Our time is against us, and today we want us to cross early. By 8:30 we should be leaving this place then. So let's start from here and direct your question. If you direct your question to Mr. Gola, say this goes to Mr. Gola. If you direct it to Honorable Paulino, say it goes to him as well. So let me take from this row, and I'll be very sensitive on gender balance. I'll still always come back. So I will take Nonoya, and I will take Luke.
Honorable Paulino Lukudu. Honorable said that people are still using Arabic in the court. So do you think that the people who don't know English, the people who came from Sudan, the Khartoumers, can be a problem in this country because they don't know English? And do you think Arabic is not an international language because the people of Sudan speak Arabic? Thank you.
Earlier that it is very hard for a military person to do development. And I quote, you suggest that you can tell the people in the farm that the time for young people is now and it should be. My question is, does that really or actually mean we are calling for generational exit? I just want to make one statement.
Okay.
My statement is this. The first question was so genuine and beautiful. What have we done? Those 10 years behind us, mark my words, the youth of South Sudan are 74.3%, the population of this country. If we did not vote it globally, we wouldn't have gotten this independence that we are celebrating now. That's an achievement that we are having now. That's one. Number two, my president, my minister to the sport, I'm so glad that you guys have spoken very well.
Yes. When you go back, please tell the vice president that the youth won't have the show.
Vice President for Gender and Youth Cluster is Her Excellency Mama Rebecca Nyandeka, who is a mother actually. All of us, we can call her the mother of the nation.
My name is Joseph Gama. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm looking at my questions from that perspective. Gola, we seem to be focusing so much in Juba. You will find that development is taking place in Juba, power is taking place in Juba, water is taking place in Juba, as well as engagement with the youth is taking place in Juba. How are we engaging the youth from the other states? What about institutionalizing some of these things? When we talk about corruption, why not build the capacity of the anti-corruption bureau?
So you quoted from the president's speaker, corrupt state officials are one of the challenges we have today. And my question goes to you, as a person who is in a position of power, how have you coped with this issue of corruption in your office particularly?
What I'm trying to say is that we are the young people. If we can ask ourselves, what have we done so far? Apart from what Mr. Carabino just mentioned now, with our participation in the independence of South Sudan by vote, because we are 72% of the population. Because at the young generation, I always believe that we should ask, what can we do to our country instead of what our country can do for us, before we ask what our country can do for us. And if you go back to the history, most of these leaders, if you go back to their pictures in 1993, 1992, 1994, some of them were younger than us. Some of them were our ancestors. And they've managed to sacrifice their lives, their future, their family, and went to the bush to fight for 21 years. This is a sacrifice. They were not getting salaries, they were not getting motivation. They were not getting anything from anywhere. But they said we must liberate this country. We must fight for the freedom of South Sudanese or South Sudan at large. That is what they have done. And they have managed to through their struggle, we are now an independent country. To me, they have actually done their part. There is nothing more you can expect from them, more than what they have done. And if we are seeing them messing up or they are not doing things correctly, we have to excuse them because what they have done is more than what they can do now. And our turn as a young nation, young generation, is to mark or equip ourselves and try to train ourselves so that when we go to the leadership later on, we will not do the same mistakes that they have done.
Question from the lawyer is the most serious one. He asked about whether people who learn Arabic are a problem to the country because maybe they don't know English or the use of Arabic in court. That is not the main point that I uttered. I say our courts are using Arabic in terms of whereby our constitution says the official language is English. So how come that court will use Arabic if the constitution says official language is English? This is a violation of the constitution. Two, even the constitution has given the privilege for the translation. Example, if you go to court, you don't know English, you can ask someone, or you can go to someone to be your translator, and the court will provide that, so that you will know your charges. You will know the charges that leveled against you, so that the issue of multi-language is captured by the constitution. But that's where official language is English. But Arabic, of course, and other indigenous language will be carried. That is according to the constitution. But the rule of the game was in the hands of the elders. They can decide the bottom whether red or blue or green. They can decide. So you were not in the decision-making positions for all these 10 years. But of course, what we did all during the liberation, you can see engagement of young people to have our independence of our own. But we also say that it is time for the young people to sit with the elders to learn. We say we should have anti-corruption court. And South Sudan Anti-Corruption Commission, SAC, will be given powers to investigate and even prosecute. So we have anti-corruption, mind to sulu. We don't have court that can try people who maybe found that they are condoning corruption and all this. So, like my brother Gola said, we are at the stage of the transformation, of course, and with the transformation, things will happen. But let us focus so that we know how things will happen. If we are not focused, we will never know the direction.
What youth spaces already exist for the young people to interact with you? How do you bridge this? I remember there's a question already asked regarding your relationship with the youth also at the grassroots. And I think based on that, that's why we're having issues around unemployment, youths ending up into violent attacks. Those are things that would have been countered if you had good relationship with the youths, both at the national and the state level.
I'm Ben Newton. Okay. My question is just like, if you, Honorable, what would you tell us if you see a war general or a good shooter from those days or recently brought to power, or as a minister of finance, someone who shoot very well, doesn't have the skill of finance and brought to finance? So how do you think that one fight corruption?
Thank you. My name is Arun Richard. I'm an entrepreneur. Abuni Kama is my colleague. We will quite interact a lot in the business sector. My question goes to Gola. I heard you speak about the Youth Enterprise Fund. And given the history of this country, from the time we got independence until this minute that we're speaking, and our relationship with funds have never been good. Both the young and the old have been accused of corruption, including your office, as we have seen in the social media. How sure are you with the various institutions that you are pushing for this youth development fund that it is going to gather enough momentum to convince our old corrupt, supposedly corrupt leaders to buy in the idea to give you money, which they cannot trust you? If they cannot trust you with the leadership, how do you expect them to trust you with funds that they will put aside for your own development, which they might be afraid of?
So, Vincent, my question goes to Gola. He spoke of empowerment, which is the most important thing to all of us as the youths. But the challenge comes in that all the youths that are there in different positions, they are there to represent us as the youths. But you find in cases that when they get the job, and then they get like some women who are old, at times you find it's their bosses, they get into courtship instead of them pulling their own youth, instead they are pulling the old ones. So are you there empowering the youths or the old ones?
Just a quick question to Gola. I mean, earlier when you were talking about the lack of finance, because your office mostly has voice but no resources. This kind of twofold, like how much does it cost to run your office in a month? And like, is that something that we can know here? How do you raise money for that? Like, is that something that you receive? And when you do you declare it out? Like, hey, I got a pen from who? XCX is worth like £5. And I think it would be very nice to just know that, because it just helps to know.
Please, your name?
Call me Mwaka. Yeah. So I was just like trying to remind us a little bit that we are out of the topic that we're supposed to be discussing, the achievement we have made as the young people and as a country in South Sudan. And I think we're leaving this already. So my question again goes to both of you, that what achievement have you made as young people in the offices that you are in right now, both different offices that you are working for in the past 10 years?
Thank you.
And
just one question.
Yeah, let me just ask. So, if I'm not mistaken, my president, the youth president, you said the president is investing on the roads. And also you talked of employment, the payments, like the salaries that is causing corruption in the country. So if the president is focusing on the roads and the ministers are not being paid, then who is corrupting?
Because when you look at it, at the youth, you've been complaining of the issue to do with the finances. We don't know really, because we are blaming that we have not even responded to you, we have not contributed. When initially we don't even know the finance that is supposed to come to us. How are we going to pay to the union when we don't even know the person that we're supposed to pay to? And again, because when you look at this, there is thing to do with the regional chairperson and the state chairperson. And they are not for, because this is the link that we can use, and the channel that we can use and share.
The refugee comes from Uganda and all that. I'm one of them. We did so, we fought names, we fought age. How far did you go with the inquirement concerning the youth to who we become today and what we're going to be the next generation? Because you talked about people who are doing suicide for the fact that the nation is not moving forward. So how far do we go as the youth?
We did not engage much with the young people, but those who used to come to the office, they see how we are suffering meeting the young people. Those who have some problems and we are trying to talk to them, or sometimes trying to solve their problems. Most of the time I'm getting out from office at 8 or 7, meeting people, and I'm trying as much as possible to meet anyone who is trying to meet me and discuss issues. Some people will come with advice, some people will come with ideas, some people will come with problems that need to be solved, and we have been engaging with them throughout. So, and this is also one of the ways we're engaging with young people. I think for the past 6 months, we were having also panel discussion like this in the National Youth Union office. We've been engaging with the youth from different aspects, political parties, youth in business, entrepreneurs, and other youth organizations. We've been engaging with them with such panel discussion, talking about how best we can actually empower and help the young people of this country. Remember his name. I think to me, there is nothing wrong bringing someone from military background or general to one of the finance institutions. If you can see, we have a very good example of Honorable General Africano Mande, who is in charge of National Revenue Authority, and is now one of the best institutions in the country. Lastly, he was giving remarks of they have so far collected 500 billion South Sudanese pound and 12 million US dollars. I think it's a great achievement for the first time in our history to have someone who can do something like that. And even in the modern world, like the United States, we have people like Colin Powell, who are, all of them are generals and they're all in opposition. There's nothing wrong, there's no harm of someone from military background to hold any political position. Is it? Okay, yeah. He was talking about the Youth Enterprise Development Fund Bill. And he was asking that, how are we going to make sure that our fund is not going to be taken by individuals? Because our institutions is known by corruption, including your office. First of all, in this bill, it's very clear that there are going to be an independent commission. And the commission is going to be appointed by the president. And the Minister of Youth and Sport and National Youth Union are only going to have representatives in that commission. We are not going to have a hand on that fund. And the commission is going to be like an MD, someone who is going to do day-to-day activities. And National Youth Union will be having one representative. The Minister of Youth and Sport is going to have one representative. The other youth organizations is going to have one representative. The Minister of Finance is going to have one representative. So that commission is going to be independent because it's going to be through an act of the Parliament, and they are going to perform their duties without interference from the Ministry or the National Youth Union. What you are seeing on social media, is people that when they come to us in the office and they request financial support and we fail to support them, they will immediately go to social media and try to abuse us. And that is one of the most challenges that we have faced in this office. And if it wasn't just for a challenge that someone put on himself to establish the office of the National Youth Union, because to me, what I'm concentrating much on now is the establishment of the National Youth Union to be an institution whereby if someone else come after me, we'll find there is already established office. But the challenge that we're going through, if they are seeing you today dressed smartly like this, alas, you have eaten our money. But if you go back to my pictures, before I became the chairman of South Sudan National Youth Union, I always dress suit like this. And because all my money I'm using it buying clothes. So there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm smart before the union, and I'm smart in the union, and after the union, I'm still smart as I am. Is that we used to use 1,500,000 a month. 1,500,000 South Sudanese pound a month. This was including our support, paying salaries to our support staff, because we don't have salaries ourselves. We're only paying for our support staff, keeping the office operating, power, water for the guests, tea, and sometimes we have lunch in the office, like ginger or others. Stationaries, printing. So this is the budget that we are using on a monthly basis. But when sometimes we go out of the budget and we zero in our financial custody, then we used to contribute. Today I may buy water myself, tomorrow one of the secretariats. And we are trying to launch soon a way of how we could actually allow the young people to contribute. As one of my brothers, Alfred, has suggested, we are actually trying to use M-Gurush, MTN, or Zain in order to actually engage with the young people and ask them to contribute. In our work plan, we are planning to construct the headquarters of South Sudan National Youth Union. We call it the Youth Center. And we are now looking for a land. We have talked with the governor of Central Equatoria to give us a land. And then from there, we will actually launch a massive campaign that every young person will contribute.
There was a question, good question raised by one of our members in the forum here. What are the achievements? You know, sometimes achievement you cannot measure them with kilo, like the way you can measure sugar. But one of the things that I want to talk about, through the lobby, we managed to sponsor 240 students. As we are speaking now, those students are schooling in the University of Juba. I wish I could get a better class. Second achievement that we did as a union also, as he said it, we have tried to work small. We came up with a farm. We decided to do agricultural farm. Because
this person will fight corruption. It is two ways. The answer is two ways. If the good shooter or the sharp shooter is really a person of integrity, this person will fight corruption, and I believe he will protect the institution. If this person has no integrity, then he or she will be the mother of corruption itself. So it is two ways. Either it will be positive or negative at the end. Depends on the integrity and honesty of the person who is in that position. From the South Sudan National Union. And I was appointed a minister less than 3 months. Even the presidency to appear, at least you need 3 months. So I was suspended in a very short time without even doing any achievements.
That 10 years down the road, and now as we are talking, there is no direction. And as leaders, I want to ask you, do you think we need a political dialogue with the we liberated this country generation? I have a feeling that if we continue discussing what Gola has done, what the minister has done, and what all of us have done here, under this political environment, 10 years again we are going to be the same.
Thank you so much. My name is Akau Jambo, and I would like to tell Honorable Paulino that you mentioned that in the 3 months you've been in office you haven't achieved anything. I would like to tell you that actually you achieved something. You got me out of jail when I was arrested a few months ago. But I'd like to ask a question to my President Gola, with utmost respect. Your responses and speeches show a political side. The way you respond shows your command. There's a side you are, I will not mention. You know yourself. The question is, with that kind of attitude or whatever I should call that, how do you? First of all, does your office demand neutrality with that? And if it does, how do you manage to appeal to the youth of IO, IG, and other political parties with that kind of, with so much respect?
My name is Gola Boyoi Jr, and I'm a multi-million journalist. Mine is a follow-up question to the chairperson or chairman, and the follow-up question concerns to what repeatedly he has said the leaders who liberated this country have made sacrifices, which nobody denies. But he repeatedly says this corruption and tribalism is understandable when we're looking at development stages because we are transitional. He also did mention that whatever governance issues that we have can be excused because of the leadership that we have had
and the changes that we are going through. Now the question is, in your position, should the leaders take that as a reward for their struggle, and whatever they are doing should be considered as a reward to them?
Honorable Paulino, I was very delighted to hear of your appointment because I trust in the leadership that you have demonstrated for us. But I was saddened following your suspension, and after your suspension, I don't know what steps have you taken to regain back your position. That is the first question I want to ask you. And attached to it goes to my chairperson. We lobbied, you lobbied, and some of us lobbied for you to be appointed in ministerial positions. Following Honorable Paulino's appointment and suspension, you went quiet. What have you done as the chairperson of the National Youth Union in pursuit of him to regain his position? Because from us, we are thinking under the South Sudan Youth Organization Coalition to come up with a paper and go even meet governor and ask him, that is our youth, we need that position. Because the more we keep quiet like this, it will never be given unto us. And lastly, I want to ask my chairman, I don't know what time frame you are left in a chair, because we also need you to make the other leaders to take up from you, because your period is getting down. Thank you very much.
Representing youth and your youth, what have you done? What frameworks have you set to ensure that at least this harassment that takes place in relation to expression of speech? Because we all know what journalists, we all know what young people always go through when you express yourself, as you have said, that there's no freedom after you've expressed yourself. So what frameworks have you put in place to ensure that at least everyone is safe?
Other celebrities here, Flora, we have people from City FM, Caro, Capital FM that are here, people inside here. And of course this show is proudly sponsored by, of course, Notos and Capital FM.